Good afternoon, Chair Corsi, members of the board, County Administrator Rivera, Mr. Pittman, Jeff DuVall, your interim director for the Department of Emergency Management. And I'm joined here today with Chief Heine from Sonoma County Fire District, serving as the Operational Area Fire Coordinator, and Chief Nicholls with CAL FIRE, serving as the Sonoma Division Chief. With here to present our 2023 Wildfire Preparedness Update for your board. Today, we'll take a look at the fire season outlook, some of the preparedness activities amongst our organizations here in the county, some response readiness, and a quick update on the Ag Pass program numbers. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Chief Nicholls for a fire season outlook. Chief.
Good afternoon, members of the board. We have some good news here for you today to start the 2023 fire season. As you'll notice up there on the map, we have a whole lot of green showing across Northern California from the period of June through July and into the early parts of August. And those that have watched the fire season 4-month outlook in the last handful of years have noticed that that's normally painted a solid color of red. So we are in a much better situation to start the 2023 fire season than we have been. So this is the outlook that has come out as of June 1st. So it's a 4-month outlook for fire season. And as you can see, a combination of the wet winter that we had to go with the abnormally cool start to fire season that we're experiencing yet again this afternoon has led to conditions that are not conducive to major fire growth as we come into the first part of fire season. So with that, we are taking the opportunities to put good fire on the ground out here in Sonoma County. Crews are up on the Plum Ranch Road, Saddle Mountain area, affecting a prescribed fire operation up there, preparing for a future prescribed fire operation, as well as work on the the west side of the Annandale State Park up against the Bennett Ridge subdivision. So we're utilizing these conditions to be able to pre-treat the battlefield before we get into the fall months when we're going to have the more critical fire weather. Today, there has been lightning activity, as you can see with the outlook about the monsoonal patterns. However, all the lightning strikes that I've seen today have been out over the Pacific Ocean. And in the event that they got on shore, our fuel conditions are not conducive to rapid fire growth. So we'll be able to contain those fires. However, as we get into August, September, we may see an uptick in that availability for the alignment of lightning systems to affect fire growth when we get into more critical burning conditions. So the item that I want to leave you with on that first slide is that we are at near to below normal significant fire weather opportunities all the way up until September. That is not a time for us to breathe a sigh of relief and expect that we will have a low-key fire season. It just gives us roughly a month extra of time to prepare before we get into those critical fire conditions that we're all too well aware of as we get deeper into the fire season. And one other item of note on the map before we leave this screen is that while we here locally are out of the drought, there are still portions in California that are still under drought conditions. So we expect increased opportunities for major fires, specifically in the northeast corner of California. So again, these are the indices that are for our mid-coast region, the red section that you see there on the map, showing that our energy release component, which is basically the energy we expect at the flaming front of a fire if it were to occur, are at average and actually trending below average. So if we were to run this report again this afternoon, more than likely that blue line on the right side graph showing the energy release component would actually be below average where we would be at this time of the year. To go with that, the graph on the left side is the 1,000-hour fuels. Those are the largest dead and down forest fuels that affect the spread of fire. And as you can see there, with the weather that we've recently had and continue to experience, that will actually trend above average on where we would be at this time of the year, which has been a pleasant break from what we've seen in the last handful of years.
So with that, let's talk about some of the preparedness activities that we have been taking across the county. And again, turning it back over to Chief Nicholls for CAL FIRE.
Something near and dear to Supervisor Gorin's heart. You can see that nice fancy new emblem for the Hood Mountain Fire Center. That is back again for the second year and is trending in the appropriate direction that we anticipate that will be a fully funded crew in the years to come. However, they are back as of May 16th. And so they are preparing their crew for fire season and assisting with those prescribed fire operations in the county and throughout the unit. As you see on the list there, currently we are at 11 engines across the unit plus the Hood Mountain Fire Center. On June 5th, yesterday, Sonoma Air Attack Base was staffed back and available. So we have the aircraft back at the Sonoma Air Attack Base. And on the 19th of June, we go to what we call level 3 staffing, which is 21 engines across the unit, which works out to be 1 engine per station. So here in the county, that'll be 9 CAL FIRE engines on top of the local resources. And then by June 26th, we anticipate being at peak staffing, which is all resources staffed, at which time you'll have 14 CAL FIRE engines, 2 bulldozers, and the aircraft at Sonoma Air Attack Base and Boggs Mountain Heli-Tac Base. July 1st, we continue the exclusive use contract with the 15 Type 1 helicopters across the state. And here locally, we have not 1, but 2. So there will be 1 here at Sonoma County Airport and 1 over at the Napa County Airport. So as a statewide standard, we're looking much heavier on resources than some of our counterparts throughout the rest of the state. Next slide. So just for your situational awareness, the 2 Charlie Hotel helicopter there on the left will be at the Napa County Airport. It's a Chinook helicopter, carries 2,800 gallons of water, as well as 37 Sierra, which is a sky crane that will be here at Sonoma County Airport, also Sonoma Air Attack Base, that carries 2,000 gallons of water on top of the 1,000 gallons of water that Copter 104, our normal unit-based helicopter, brings to the fight. So a lot of water shows up in a very short period of time. And then to the preparedness component, Chief Heine will speak to it on the OES side as well, but CAL FIRE has also introduced intelligence aircraft. And so the picture at top right is Intel 503 that has advanced imagery equipment on it, thermal, and the ability to give incident commanders a real-time screenshot of what's going on that incident to be able to help drive that firefight to make sure that the resources that we have are plugged into the most active parts of the fire and can affect the greatest containment and control on that fire. And the image on your screen now is actually a product of those intelligence aircraft. So the glowing orb on the right side of the screen there is the old fire from early in fire season last year over in Napa County. And you can see that finger of the head extending out on the left shoulder there as it's trying to work its way up the drainage. Just there at the very top of the crosshair, you can actually see a little heat signature there as well. And if you were able to watch the video in real time, which the incident commander can, that's one of the helicopters working that left flank. So gives the incident commander some great real-time situational awareness on what's going on the fire ground, as well as the ability to call out the structures that are threatened and give that real-time input, as well as tactical analyst, a program that CAL FIRE has been using for the last handful of years, is a coordination between a company called Techno Silva and the state that allows, based on weather conditions, both current and forecasted, a real-time simulation of what the fire will do at time of dispatch for every fire here in the unit. So incident commanders all the way up through Chief Marcucci have the real-time situational awareness on what the expected fire growth and behavior is going to be in the next 8 hours, which helps create resource orders and priorities for that incident commander that historically we did not have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I'd like to turn over to Chief Heine to talk about our county fire agencies in OES.
Thank you, Jeff. Good afternoon, supervisors. I'm wearing multiple hats in front of you today, I guess. One of those hats I wear for all of us is to serve as the OES Operational Area Fire Coordinator. Every county in the state has a fire operational area coordinator. And my goal, my job is really to be the coordinator on behalf of the County of Sonoma for the state's fire mutual aid network. So I coordinate resources leaving this county, going to other large incidents across the state, and also have the ability to receive state mutual aid resources during major and escalating incidents in Sonoma County. One of those big programs that has been highly effective for us over the last several years has been countywide upstaffing paid for by the Governor's Office of Emergency Services. So when we have anticipated critical fire weather conditions such as red flag warnings, but this has also been extended to other threats that the county could be facing that are predicted ahead of time, such as major flood events and other storm-related impacts. We have the ability to request through the State Office of Emergency Services funding to upstaff additional strike teams, which are 5 fire engines together. And that is a critical tool for Sonoma County to be prepared and proactive for anticipated high threats. One of my jobs during fire season in particular is to work very closely with our allied agencies. So while Ben and I may wear different patches and work for different agencies, when there's an escalating situation in Sonoma County, we are on the phone constantly talking proactively about what the needs may be, how we get ahead of those needs, how we move the proper number of resources in place and where they should be and what their priorities are. One of the other things that is in place with our partners at REDCOM, the 911 Fire and EMS Dispatch Center in Sonoma County, is we have a pre-assigned on a weekly rotational basis. A fire chief officer in this county is assigned to REDCOM. In the event of any escalating incidents, I dispatch that chief officer to REDCOM to serve as a liaison to help the REDCOM 911 dispatchers order the proper number of resources and carefully coordinate with our CAL FIRE partners at our St. Helena Command Center. We do weekly planning conference calls every Monday morning at 10 a.m. All of the fire operational area folks are on a call together, all the fire chiefs, DEM, all of our emergency management partners. We talk about what the threats look like for that week, what are the concerns we may have, and coordinate amongst all of ourselves proactive measures that we think need to be put in place. There are some specialty resources. Chief Nicholls touched on quite a few of those that our CAL FIRE partners fortunately bring to the table for us very locally, from Sonoma Air Attack Base, our air tankers, which play a valuable role, to our helicopters. We have access to that specialty intel play, and to take that just one step farther, that's been one of the, other than fire cameras, that's probably been one of the biggest technological advances. That plane can be over an escalating fire incident in Sonoma County in a matter of 20 minutes or so. And I can stand at the back of my vehicle at the side of the road and get a live stream from that aircraft, both live video, infrared, and it can be fed into a fire behavior modeling computer system. They'll tell me where that fire will be in the next 30 minutes. And so if you think back to our overwhelming success in the county during the Kincaid fire of evacuating large communities without any civilian injuries and fatalities and getting people out of harm's way, that was due to proactive intelligence. And so this takes that to an all new level for us. In addition to the other aerial firefighting aircraft, Sonoma County Fire District's Sonoma County 1 helicopter program adds a new aerial firefighting resource to the firefighting arsenal this year. The toolbox carries 120 gallons of water in a bucket and can be of great use for small vegetation fires, try to control those fires and provide structured defense before our CAL FIRE partners arrive.
Thanks, Chiefs. From the Department of Emergency Management on Preparedness, we continue with our targeted community outreach, our Sonoma Ready program, working with the community, different community groups, COPE, CERT, and fire safe communities to spread the word of preparedness. One of those targeted, as you see in the upper right hand there, is the Great Preparedness Fair, where we were invited to pass out information, know your zone information. Also working with our Office of Communications from the County Administrator's Office for social media, making sure that we're pushing that ready, set, go, know your zones. And additionally, the Department of Emergency Management works with targeted communities to do our community evacuation exercises. And this Sunday, we'll be doing one in the Upper Mark West Springs watershed with partnerships with the Sheriff's Office, Park Rangers, California Highway Patrol, the Fire District, come in, prepare the community ahead of time, have their go bags. The Sonoma County Public Safety comes through with their high-lows. We activate SOCO alert for those targeted areas. Long 3-month planning process goes into this to make sure that the community is aware of what is going on and whether they're going to participate or not. We've had great success with that and expanding that message to them. From the response side, or continuing with the response side from the Department of Emergency Management, that also includes our Emergency Operations Center staff training. That is an annual training that we do for the disaster service workers, knowing what their roles, updated position training. As you can see from the pictures here, this was just last month when we activated the Emergency Operations Center in a regional exercise that they had to work through a scenario, strengthening our alert and warning capabilities, and also working with our North Bay Emergency Management Group for a collaboration meeting. And that's the counties of Sonoma, Marin, Solano, Napa, Lake, and Mendocino get together annually and have conversations of the impacts, the outlooks, but more importantly, how we can come together and support each other. Just really quick, looking at the alert and warning platforms as a quick review. It's always important to know the different systems that we have here to the left, the wireless emergency alert system, which comes across your cell phones, that amber style alert. SOCO alert activates home phone numbers, business phone numbers, emails, and text messages, and the emergency alert system, which comes across radio and television, and also the NOAA weather radios. All those are supported by the Sonoma County Public Safety's high-low sirens, neighbor-to-neighbor communication, the public safety and cities who have Nicholls, and also through our healthcare community through the image trend notification system through Coastal Valley's EMS. Moving to response, I'll turn it to Chief Heine to talk about local response area.
So I think what's on the slide is a little fire service jargon for you, but just to clarify it a little bit, this is what a standard response looks like to what we call local responsibility area fire. That's a fire that's in local county jurisdiction, but not on state responsibility lands. So we send one battalion chief who is our initial incident commander. A type 3 fire engine is usually a 4-wheel drive fire engine that's designed for wildland firefighting. A type 1 fire engine is what you're most accustomed to seeing on the streets every day. It's a larger fire engines. They're sent because they're designed primarily to provide structure defense from that advancing wildfire. So we're sending the proper number of resources to do 2 things at once: provide proper defense for neighborhoods, individual structures, and larger geographic areas, while also sending the right number of 4-wheel drive vehicles to get off-road and go combat the actual advance of the fire itself. We also send water tenders, which in other words are tanker trucks filled with water, because much of the area served in Sonoma County by the fire service is not water supply hydrant areas. So bringing our own water source with us becomes very critical. In addition to that, we rely heavily on our CAL FIRE partners, and Chief Nicholls will walk you through a little bit what that CAL FIRE response to vegetation fires looks like. Chief.
Okay, so on the state responsibility side of the house, the SRA, Chief Heine hit the local response, but state responsibility is also covered by the local fire district. So what's coming to a local fire is also coming to the state fire as well. And so the CAL FIRE response is on top of that initial dispatch. So the 4 original engines and the water tender and chief officer are coming from the local agencies, but CAL FIRE, being the agency having jurisdiction for the state responsibility area, brings to bear a battalion chief. And we did update the slide here post submittal to the board. So the 1 battalion, so red flag day, think a high dispatch, hot, windy, dry day. The top end CAL FIRE response you're going to get for an initial attack fire is a battalion chief, the air tactical group supervisor, which is the air attack plane out of the Sonoma County Airport, Sonoma Air Attack Base, with 2 tankers out of our base plus a 3rd tanker. So there's 3 air tankers right off the bat, a helicopter from Boggs Mountain preferably, as well as 8 type 3 CAL FIRE engines remembering that on a day where everybody's in quarters, there's 14 engines, 14 Cal Fire Type 3 engines here in the county. So it's going to take the bulk of the engines that are here in the county. But when we get to drawdown conditions, those may be coming from a longer way away. But the initial dispatch is that 8 engines, 2 hand crews, and 3 bulldozers. And so those bulldozers here day to day, we have 2 here in the county. So that means 1 coming from, say, Ukiah or Napa County on that initial dispatch. But we have found that we want to surge more resources in on those initial attack fires with the idea that we catch that fire at under 10 acres or less so that we prevent that major fire from developing. So we've had the initial attack fire that now is not going to be able to be contained by those initial attack resources. Now we exercise the California mutual aid system. And unfortunately, we get a chance to exercise it on a regular basis. And so the state of California is one of the most versed and fluid when it comes to activating that basically all call for the state that brings resources from not only additional resources here in the county, but also outside our surrounding counties and ultimately the state to the nation, to the world, depending on the size of the fire. So that flow chart basically runs you through a process that when that initial attack incident commander realizes that he or she needs additional resources, they place those resource orders with St. Helena, our command center, that then pushes that resource request up to our geographic area coordination center, North Ops, out of Reading, and Reading ships those requests out across the northern part of the state to fill. And if we can't fill them in the north part of the state, then it goes to the south. And I'll let Chief Heine speak to the REDCOM side and how those resource requests go out through the OES side of the house on our local government partner side.
Yeah, so it's a very coordinated system, particularly between the Governor's Office of Emergency Services, or OES, and CAL FIRE. So there's a contingent that is dealt with on the CAL FIRE side to move CAL FIRE resources up and down the state towards Sonoma County in the event that it's needed. And then on the OES side, the OES Command Center up in Sacramento will push those orders out to all of us fire operational area coordinators. So for example, if the fire was in Shasta County and there's multiple structures being threatened and they need lots of help, that order would come from Sacramento to our region dispatch center in Alameda County over to REDCOM. I would approve that order. And while that sounds like a very lengthy process, it's done in a matter of minutes. And those resources have been predetermined in Sonoma County, which fire agencies are going to go, and they're on the road within a matter of minutes. The same process occurs if Sonoma County should need resources as well.
Thank you, Chiefs. For the Department of Emergency Management on the response side, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, we've got one of our deputy emergency service coordinators serving as a duty officer, and their job is to keep their finger on the pulse of what is going on here in the county, not only in our county, but also surrounding counties. As in the wildfire scenario, if a dispatch goes out for a wildfire, they are notified, they're listening to their radio or monitoring it through tablet command, starting to make those decisions whether they need to activate, call a second duty officer, go to REDCOM, or go out to the command post. That way they can link in and get that live intel information. If it looks like something's going to progress, we have what we call our Unified Evacuation Team, which is a partnership between DEM, Information Systems, the web team, county communications, human services, animal services, and the sheriff's office. And as soon as we start to hear that there's that potential or possibility for evacuation team comes together, so that way we have live time updating of both SoCo emergency and information for the public to where to go for a temporary evacuation point. At the same time, working with the public information side and making sure that SoCo emergency is getting updated, working with the IT team that the evacuation zone map is updated, continuing social media updates, coordination with 211, and evaluating the need for a joint information center to be established or activation of the joint information center. And that's all the agencies involved, their public information officers coming together under one joint system to share and push out one unified message during the event. So where there's not confusion. With that, I'll go into a brief Ag Pass program update. To date, from the Ag Weights and Measures Commissioner's Office, there's been 81 applications submitted. 46 of those applications are for commercial livestock producers. 27 applications are for commercial plant agricultural producers. 8 applications for both livestock and plant ag producers. From that, 48 passes have been issued, 33 for commercial livestock producers, 14 for commercial plant and agricultural producers, and 1 issued for both livestock and plant ag producers. There was 2 currently under Ag Weights and Measures review, 18 awaiting sheriff authorization, 8 that were canceled. Additional information was required, was not provided by the applicant, and it was canceled. 2 denied, 1 duplicate, 1 pending Ag Weights and Measures appointment, 1 resubmitted to Ag Weights and Measures for review, and 1 returned to the submitter awaiting a response from the applicant. And with that, that concludes our presentation, pending any questions from your board.